Welcome to Over and Out for the T20 World Cup final review with me, Sadir Azizi Khwaja. And first of all, thank you to all our viewers for their likes, comments, private messages. Appreciate all their feedback. And of course, thank you to AZ for, despite doing commentary daily and the crazy hours due to the time delay, he's been a trooper, so I appreciate you. Let's get right into it. An amazing World Cup final. I think that just did justification to the fact that there was two unbeaten teams, and India becomes deservedly the first unbeaten team to ever win a T20 World Cup. They made 167 for 6. 176 for 7, and then held South Africa to 169 for 8. And in the end, I think a deserved victory for them. They were the best team throughout the tournament. They've been the best white ball team now for 2 consecutive ICC tournaments, and basically have gone unbeaten in both the 2023 ODI World Cup and for the most part for this T20 World Cup as well. So to me, let's start off. The high points, I think people will say that South Africa choked. They needed 30 for 30. And then 26 of 24 with only 1 over Bumrah to go. But we've talked about this at length over the course of the series. This is one of the advantages of Bumrah. Rashid has the same thing, whereby an opposition has to take into account the fact that Bumrah has 4 overs to go through. Rashid has 4 overs to go through. And if you're chasing, it becomes quite a challenge for you to keep that run rate above the asking rate, given what Bumrah can do. So you can see that when they were needed 30 of 30, Bumrah came in, Sharma brought in a little earlier, and they only took 4 runs off that over. More importantly, it put pressure on them in the final 3 overs, and sure enough, that led to wickets down the line. Your thoughts on Bumrah and whether this was a South African choke job?
Well, I think there's no doubt that it was, Doc, because 30 needed of 30 with a set Klaasen and David Miller at the crease. You'd back the Proteas to win that game any time of any occasion, any pitch, any sort of conditions whatsoever. But that is the pressure of a World Cup final. Sometimes things do go wrong. 26 needed of 24 when Heinrich Klaasen just nicked off to Hardik Pandya. And well, you have to credit the Indian bowling. They stuck to their game plan. Arshdeep Singh, Hardik Pandya executed, even though Rohit Sharma had to roll the dice and bowl Bumrah out early. So you have to remember the last 2 overs were down to Arshdeep and Hardik, nobody else. So they took the responsibility, and that's been the way the Indian team has performed throughout the World Cup. It's been a total collective effort. It's not been the top 3 dominating and them cruising through to the semi-finals and the final. Everybody has chipped in on their occasion. Arshdeep Singh, the highest wicket taker for India in a men's T20 World Cup. Who would have thought? And he outshone Bumrah in some key moments as well. And Hardik Pandya, the much maligned Hardik Pandya, like he mentioned, that he had a torrid last 6 months or so, a lot of off-the-field stuff interfering with his performance on the field. But when it came to the clutch, him and Surya Kumar Yadav, that catch will be much debated of David Miller. But it looked pretty clean to me when I was watching it live. And of course, when that happened, you knew that it was pretty much all over for the Proteas. And what a heartbreaking loss. Seriously, I don't know if I was a Pakistan fan, if this happened to us, how would I psychologically recover from this? It's yet one of those mental wounds that the South African team will need to live with.
It'll be a tough loss, but let's go back to what you said. It was a collective effort. It really was. Rohit Sharma set the tone, but he got out early. Kohli then batted well. I wouldn't say batted super early. His half century came off 48 balls, and between the 4th and the 18th over, he basically scored 29 runs off 35 deliveries with no boundaries. But it was really his partners, both Akshar Patel and Dubey, who took the fact that he was anchor, and then they scored 72 off 48 while he was batting, and that allowed them to build a formidable total that probably at the end of the first inning we thought was about 10 to 15 runs more than South Africa could chase. You mentioned Surya Kumar Yadav's amazing catch, the exploits of Bumrah, Hardik Pandya, Kohli, and I think that's where the Indian team now is one of the best teams in world cricket. They have strength and depth in numbers. They can bring in players to suit the opponents, and they can beat you in multiple different ways. On the other side, I think Miller and Klaasen batted superbly. They basically almost took the game right out of India's reach. until that Bumrah over then and the subsequent over of Hardik Pandya, where he took those 2 wickets. And he's really become Mr. Clutch for India. He's stepped up in the semis. He's stepped up here. He stepped up versus Pakistan. But you're right that this will be a tough pill to swallow for South Africa, because a run a ball with 6 wickets in hand, you really should be coming home.
And that had always been that, that Achilles heel, that their batting was not very deep at all. After Marco Jansen, it was all the bowlers, right from Keshav Maharaj down to number 11. So we always felt that in the back of our minds, they could get in trouble in a pressure run chase. And we did discuss in our final preview that it suits India to bat first and then having to defend the score with that shallow batting lineup. And that is eventually what turned out. And like you mentioned, Akshar Patel outstanding in the semi-final, coming in clutch here with the bat as well. Shivam Dube producing a good cameo when it was required, reversing the momentum of the innings. Virat Kohli, like you mentioned, not a great knock, pretty much an old school Virat Kohli innings. 50 or 48, was very patient. He allowed Akshar Patel to express himself. Then when the moment came, he got that big over in, hit a few sixes. So he fixed his strike rate. But like the great man, when the situation arises, when India truly need him, he had only made 75 runs prior in the tournament, and he's covered all that up with one innings. And then of course signing off in style as well. That's something our Asian players don't do a lot. But Ravindra Jadeja, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli have bid adieu to the T20I format. And to be honest, the Indian team is only going to get better after their departure. You have the likes of Shubman Gill coming in. You've got the likes of Yashasvi Jaiswal, who was patiently on the bench here. Then you have a lot of high-quality spinners coming in as well. The likes of Varun Chakravarti deserves a recall as well. You have Ravi Bishnoi as well on the bench for Team India, who could not even sniff the squad at this moment. So they are trending upwards for 2026 and onwards. And everybody else, well, you can say Australia is aging, England is aging. They don't really have those ready-made replacements. South Africa pretty much will be there in the mix. Pakistan, who knows where we will be, but it looks like India could very easily go back-to-back T20 World Cup victories, especially in their own backyard.
You've made an excellent point that with Kohli, Jadeja and Rohit Sharma retiring from T20, it actually makes the Indian team stronger because they have such depth. When the squad was announced, if you talk to Indian fans, there was uproar more about who was left out. They could, I think it was Pandya who mentioned a year ago that we could have a second 11 who could also reach a final, and he's not wrong, because that's one thing that the IPL has really done, is that it's made India into a T20 beast, and this T20 World Cup really showed. They were never really tested. When they did what they had to do to win, and they showed that they can win in multiple different ways. It's a generational team. I think this team will go down in history as one of the great Indian teams of all time. And yes, they didn't win the 2023 ODI World Cup, but that was a miraculous catch by Travis Head and an amazing innings as well, and some great bowling. But really, this generation has really put together a great run. And you have to include the Test World Championship as well.
Well, Doc, you can't argue with a World Cup run where you beat Pakistan, where you beat Australia, where you beat England, and then you eventually beat South Africa. So they literally covered all their bases. They got all the required titles. They got all the required victories. And in the end, what a great sign-off for Rohit Sharma. It was his 9th World Cup. We keep talking about Babar Azam and Rizwan, and these guys have missed an opportunity. But hang on, man, this guy was around for 17 years, and he could not sniff the title. So perhaps a lesson in there for Pakistan fans as well. Don't be prisoners of the moment. Just zoom out, analyze, and see it's not over. These World Cup cycles come every 2 years. You only need to win it once to have your legacy cemented forever. And Babar Azam is what, 29, 30? He's just in his prime. Shaheen is barely in his early 20s. Rizwan is 31, 32 as well. So we need to take a bit of a chill pill when it comes to our own players as well. We're always very enthusiastic about critiquing them and bashing them and making memes about them. Sometimes we need to just take a backseat and relax. Our time will hopefully come. And India had to wait so long. Virat Kohli had to wait 6 World Cups. Rohit Sharma had to wait 9 World Cups to get back to the top of Mount Everest. So maybe there's a lesson in it for us as well.
I agree. The one thing I would say is that when the Indian team, you could see the progress, you could see the excellence. And yes, it didn't lead to World Cup victories or ICC tournament victories. But with Pakistan, you don't really see that sustained excellence. You see a lot of vibes, a lot of moments, a lot of fleeting performances, but nothing concrete. It's sort of an inch thick, but a mile wide.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We look a bit all over the place. I think instability at the top has been a major factor. We've had, 3 chairmen in the last 6 months or so. So that certainly doesn't help. Hopefully, we'll have a bit more stability on that front as well. Of course, a major ICC event coming up in our own backyard in February. So that gives us an opportunity to show out, so to speak. And hopefully the PCB gets its act together and the players as well will realize, hang on, the last time India won a T20 World Cup, we won the next one. So maybe history repeats itself and hopefully we can get to glory in 2026 as well.
And one other thing they mentioned was that both Kohli and Rohit Sharma are expected to participate in the Champions Trophy in 2025 to be held in Pakistan. So that's something for fans to look forward to. Any last minute thoughts?
I think in Pakistan needs to be put with an asterisk there. We really don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure the Indian government would be too happy about Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli going to Pakistan, but that's well down the line in about 6 or 8 months' time. So let's see what happens. The cricketing world, we know the landscape can change very, very soon. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see a hybrid model employed once again. Of course, the problem is once you set that precedent, it's very difficult to then renege from it. But in all essence, we do expect Team India to be coming to Pakistan, and I think it'll be a cracker of a tournament. Pakistan with a point to prove as well, especially at home. So let's see what's going to happen. Of course, these ICC events come every year, so we don't really have any time to just sit back and feast on our victories or well in our sorrows. We have to get on with it immediately.
No, that's a good point. The tournaments come thick and fast, but at the end of the day, I think a well-deserved victory for India in the T20 World Cup. Thank you again, Izzy.